When I was diagnosed with cancer 15 years ago, it was a part of my life where I knew that this is like a test or make it phase of my life, because I was already going through this weird transition where I didn't feel like I belong, you know? And it was just the moment when I found out that I had cancer. I had a golf ball size lump on my neck, and I didn't even notice it until one of my bullied. He was sitting there in class, I believe it was in class, and he looks at me. He was like, "Are you sure you're not a man?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Why do you have an Adam's apple?" And I literally got up, ran to the restroom, and I went to check my throat. And when I swallow, you can see this big lump going up and down. So I called my mom the next day because she was in Australia at the time. And she told me that, I should go to the doctors and check it out and see what it is. So I make my appointment, go through the whole phase of that. And then it was at that very moment when the doctor says, "Hey, let's just remove it. And we're just going to go schedule a surgery for you." So I had waited for my mom to get back from Australia before I went into surgery. But before that, I was feeling very lethargic, very tired, always out of breath. Like I couldn't catch myself. Like every time I would walk, I would get so exhausted. So it was at the phase where I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go, whatever happens, happens. I've always lived life like that, where I said, whatever happens, happens, So fast forward all those treatments, the needle aspiration, and also they cut a small slit off the tumor to test what it was, and there was nothing. They found nothing. But then the doctor insisted that we go through surgery so that he can just remove the lump, because he said it can get bigger. So I decided to do it, and it was that maybe like 30 days later I got my surgery. And that morning going into surgery, it was just like a weird feeling, because I'm already afraid of hospitals. Like the energy in the hospital is so stale, it's so cold, and it's not inviting, So I couldn't say I was scared, but I was scared because it was my first surgery, So I remember my mom just sending me off. And during the surgery, I could just feel myself like watching this whole process happen. It was so crazy. It was like an interesting experience. Like I was watching and hearing the doctors in the surgery room, and all I was doing was holding my bladder, because I guess I had to pee. And this is me under, like I'm still under, like I'm not like awake or anything, but I'm just telling like how when you have that dream where you're talking but then like you can't be heard. Well, I kept saying, "I need to use the restroom, I need to use the restroom," and just no one couldn't hear me. And all of a sudden I just passed out, and I woke up again. But then like I was in this cold, stale room alone. It was like a concrete room, and I was still like under the medication, where I was still in surgery. I don't know, I wasn't even awake. So I had this choice to go towards this hallway, but then all of a sudden I saw this white light beam, and I wake up. And the moment I wake up, this nurse, she runs to me and she starts hugging me, and she like starts crying, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And then I looked at her, turned at her, and I said, "You need to use the restroom." And so she puts the pan under me, and then she's like, "Do you want to hear the good news or the bad news first?" So I said the good news, and she told me to scream, and I did a screaming voice like, "Ah." And she was like, "Okay, at least you have your voice. The bad news is we found cancer in your thyroid. So we had to remove your thyroid, and it took longer than expected. And under the surgery, you passed away for like a minute or two. We didn't realize that, you know, you didn't come back. So we all thought like you were gone. So it kind of gave me that perspective of, okay, then the out of body experience was my soul leaving my body, and just watching everything all happen, you know. And it was just very interesting because that experience, like, you know, was such a blur. And that phase in my life was such a blur where I just didn't really understand it much. Because all I remember was being in the hospital for about 2 to 3 weeks, sleeping the whole time. And when they released me to go home, I was really depressed. You know, I was told I had to take this medication for the rest of my life, and I just found out that I had cancer. I was only 20 years old, and I remember my 21st birthday, I was sitting in a restaurant with some friends, and I just stared into like this blank wall. And I remember like I excused myself to go to the restroom, and I come back, and this man, he's just standing there. He's just like, "Can you smile?" He goes, "You look so sad." And I just like stared at him and just started crying. I like bawled my eyes out. I ran home. I didn't run home. I went to my friends at the restaurant, the table, and I told them, I said, "Hey, I would like to go home. I know we're in the middle of dinner. Like, I can just take a taxi home, and because I don't feel myself right now." And they all understood. So we finished the dinner, and then I made it home. And when I was getting ready for bed, I was just looking at myself in the mirror, you know, and I'm like, why do I feel so depressed? Like, I always talk to myself, like, since I was little. I've always, like, you know, asked questions, because for me, that was my clarity, was getting the answers from my own thoughts. And I asked myself, how come I'm feeling so tired, so depressed, so sad? And the first thing that like popped up was the medication. So I looked at it and I researched Synthroid. Like, what it does was it's supposed to give you or add hormones to your thyroid if you don't have a thyroid. So anyone who's diagnosed with thyroid conditions or symptoms, that's the first thing they give, because your hormones is off balance, and they are supposed to help you reproduce hormones. But something told me to just wash it down the toilet because it wasn't serving me. So I literally just got rid of the medication. And then a couple of days later, the doctor called me and he said, you know, we should come in and talk about the next treatment moving forward. And one of the things was going through radiation and chemo. And he explained the process of radiation for me, where I had to be in this incubator room, right? And no one was allowed to visit me. I wasn't allowed to leave it until I finished the medication. So of course, I said, well, if I am taking this medication, what is it going to do to my body? And I can't be around people. So when you think about it, you know, radiation is they're giving you a medication or a pill that's supposed to eliminate the cancer and kill the bad cells out of your body. But then this is like medicine, right? And it hasn't been around for not so long. So it's like, I'm questioning it now. I'm like, why can't I be around people? Or it's like, what's it going to do to my body? And he just told me, you know, like, it's just preventing the cancer to come back again. Since you remove your thyroid, you remove the cancer, we're just kind of using it for preventative medicine. And I said, well, I don't want to do it. And he looks at me, he's like, you're so young though. And I said, you know what? I go, if God wants me alive, he's gonna give me the power to go through life. And he just looked at me. He was like, all right, whatever. So I go home that evening and I was just searching. Like, I'm such a nerd. Like, I just love to get deep into what's happening to me, or learning about what, the thyroid. Like, I didn't know, sometimes you don't, I mean, most of us don't really know about what each of the organs of our body does, or the functions of it. But I literally just like dived into like thyroid and just the organ of it, and what the functioning cause and why it's not regulating. And one of the things I found out about thyroid is, yes, it produces hormones. It's, maintaining the body. And what happens is like, it's like a brain. The thyroid's kind of like the brain to one of the organs, and it tells your body the regulations and the stress level that's coming in. So when we're stressed, we process the emotions into our organs, and one of it is your thyroid. So it just depends on how you direct it. I came across this documentary called The Beautiful Truth, and so I watched it. It was on HBO Go at the time. And I think that saved my life, because it gave me hope. It really just gave me hope, because this man had this research on eating clean and raw food, and that was going to cure cancer. So what happened was, this documentary was about a man discovering the cure for cancer, but he somehow passed away, but they didn't know what happened, what the cause of it was. So his nephew took the studies and he created this documentary called The Beautiful Truth. And he wanted to bring the truth out to people, what his uncle was, working on all his life. And he started this center in Mexico where you can go and have a detox and eat raw food, juice. And he was talking about just changing your lifestyle and your mind, and not allowing the disease to be a part of you anymore. So that was like my way of hope, my way of faith, and just believing that, I am my own healer, and I can do this because God left me into this world for a reason. And I go through this whole journey of just letting God work its course through me, right? I mean, it wasn't easy. Like, I was still like, adapting to this new life, adapting to this new part of me, where it made me build this relationship deeper within myself, because now I have to trust my own intuition. I have to trust my my faith in my health, my lifestyle, and know that everything that I do and change for is gonna work. And so I literally just like went all organic, cut out all fast food. And I, like, for a whole month, I remember I was like making vegetables, juicing. I bought a juicer, and it really just changed me, because the food we eat, right? The food is the prana, and it feeds us the life force. And so sometimes when our cells are underdeveloped, food's going to give us that. And that's why it's important to have, food or minerals that we lack come back into our body to give us the energy. And it's like teaching you conscious eating, because sometimes we have that burger or french fry and we feel very sluggish. It's because there's no energy, there's no prana into that food that's feeding you that life force. So I've learned, through the whole journey of it, it was really just the movement of your mind, and knowing that you are your own power and you can heal yourself. And then you're just using the food as a life force to really heal, to nourish, and to love, and give yourself that permission that, food is our medicine. And the US doesn't want that for us. It's designed to kill us. And being here in France now, I'm realizing, there's a lot of products here that's so organic. And then the funny part is, in Los Angeles, for a prime example, we're going to Erewhon. We spend hundreds of dollars on minerals and food just to feed ourselves. And the cliche thing about eating organic is, why does it have to be expensive? Right? Because food should be access to us as something from Mother Earth. And that's why we forget the disconnect from your body, and Earth. And Mother, she's wanting to give us, nourish us with the food, the vitamins, and that power to connect deeper within yourself. And that's what I'm learning through this whole transition in my life. Each chapter has been, challenging, but it's been so wholesome and so giving, and I'm so blessed, I'm so grateful. And that's how I always live my life, is just through gratitude. The gratitude has been my number one mantra, number one key to life. Is I'm just grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to wake up every morning and breathe.